That's April 13th.
That's for April 13th. And that will be at Dartmouth High School. And we also have, after that, we have another one scheduled for the Sherbrooke Farm 40B, which will be heard on April 30th at 6 o'clock. That one will be at Town Hall as well. So moving on to the public hearings portion of tonight's meeting. We have special permit ZSP 26-2, the petitioner applicants Paul Flanagan, the owner Scott Paveo. Subject property is 43 Lucy Little Road, also known as map 42, lot 38. Property is located in a single residence B district, and it was legally advertised on March 19th and March 26th of this year.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. This petition, being filed by Mr. Flanagan, who's seeking a special permit to install an 18-foot by 40-foot in-ground swimming pool on a parcel containing approximately 18,295 square feet. The proposed pool will increase the total lot area, total coverage from 3,703 square feet, which is roughly 20%, to 4,807 square feet, which is 26%. They're seeking relief under Article 375-28.5A8, prohibitive uses, and Article 375-28.6A1, special permit uses. So at this time, I've got some letters that I've probably got to read. Let's see, I've got this one. Where's the denial letter? I'd like the denial letter first. I had it in my other package. Not on this one, but that's okay. So we put this in. All right, this letter is dated December 26th, and it's addressed to Mr. Flanagan. It's from the Building Department. It's regarding 43 Lucy Little Road. And it indicates that I've reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to noncompliance with current zoning regulations. Applicant proposing to install an 18-foot by 40-foot in-ground pool on a parcel with approximately 18,295 square feet, increasing the lot coverage from 3,703 square feet, 20%, to 4,807 square feet, 26%. A special permit is required to increase the nonconformity of lot coverage per 375-28.6. They're requiring special permit uses, and also the application is being denied under 375-28.5. All righty, and I believe we have some town comments from other departments. We have the Board of Health. Board of Health indicates that this facility has had a recent tank pumping report of March 25th, 2025, 1,500 gallons. Proposed pool per site plan stamped by RLS Richard Hood. The sewage disposal system and components will not be impacted. DPW, well, it's their typical requirements, which is compliance with their DPW regulations. I don't need to read them all into the record. All right, that's it. Those are the only two. And I don't think we have any abutters letters. Do we have any abutters, either in support or in opposition? Doesn't appear we do.
Yes, because it's within 100 feet.
Concom letter, right?
Concom, I think I just saw that. Oh, okay.
All right, so this is a determination of applicability. That's been filed. And the in-ground pool and the pool aprons within 100 foot of the buffer zone. All right, so, but this is not a requirement of an order of conditions. It's just a determination. I guess they call these RDAs. Yeah, it's all good.
It appears to have been approved.
So if they have a negative.
Last page.
Yes, I'm going to head there right now. The work described in the request is within an area subject to protection of the bylaw, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that. And I don't see where it says here to me. Can you direct me to the area where there's an approval? I'm not saying you're not right, Mr. Eubank.
Page 3 of 5, box check 3, referring you to what you just looked at. That's all they're required to
All right, it
do.
doesn't require the filing of a notice of intent.
Correct.
That's right. Okay, good. So that's why we don't need a certificate of compliance at the end of the project. All righty. So at this point in time, I'm going to call upon the petitioner or the representative to come forward and state their case. If you could please state your name for the record, Mr. Flanagan.
Paul Flanagan.
Scott Pavo.
Thank you.
So what we'd like to do is, in the rear of the property, within the grass area, we're looking to put an in-ground swimming pool, and we know we're above on the aquifers setbacks. We went through the Conservation Commission and went before the board there, and they gave us our approvals. And we're looking to get relief from you because there's nowhere on the property that we could put a pool that wouldn't require the setback in regards to lot coverage.
Lot coverage.
Yeah, lot coverage. I don't
not
see a
setback.
setback issue
Lot
here.
coverage, I'm sorry, in regards to lot coverage, yes.
Because you're in the Zone 2 Aquifer
That's
District.
right.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, anybody, I think it's pretty straightforward. You have any questions, Attorney Human?
I have no questions.
How about you, Mr.
No,
Mr. Schuler?
no, that's straight.
Attorney Farrier, any questions?
All set, all set.
Dr. Agai? All right. So, this is a public hearing, so I always give people an opportunity to be heard. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this request? So I can report to the viewers at home that at this point in time, we only have one other individual in the room other than the petitioner and the property owner, and no one's come forward to speak either in favor or in opposition. And the only reason that you're here is because of the fact that this property just so happens to be in the Aquifer Protection District, and there are there are additional regulations to preserve our drinking water sources. All right. I believe we put together some proposed findings and some proposed, well, actually, this one's because it's a special permit, it's only some proposed findings for the board. And interrupt me at any point in time, gentlemen, if there's anything you want to correct or you want to add or change. So, in this case, which is ZSP 26-2, the proposed findings would be the subject property is located at 43 Lucilito Road, Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and is also known as Assessors Map 42, Lot 38. The property has been owned by Scott Paveo since September 30th, 2008, and is located in a single residence B, Aquifer 2 zone, and Dartmouth waterfront overlay districts. The petitioner seeks a special permit to install an 18-foot by 40-foot in-ground swimming pool on a parcel containing approximately 18,295 square feet. The lot is improved by an existing 1.5-story single-family home. The applicant petitioner is seeking a special permit pursuant to 375-28.58, lot coverage above 10%, or lot coverage above 2,500 square feet of any lot, whichever is greater, and sections 375-28.6A1A. Unless a protected and lawful use or an exempted use, the following shall require a special permit from the Board of Appeals. 1, expansion or modification of a nonconforming use. To modify the existing lot coverage of 3,703 square feet, which is 20%, to 4,807 square feet, 26%. The board finds that after reviewing the submitted plans and the nature of the proposed 18-foot by 40-foot in-ground pool is proposed in such a manner that it will be appropriate to the natural topography, soils, and other characteristics of the proposed site. The board finds that the increase in lot coverage from 20% to 26% will not significantly burdensome, will not significantly burden.
Will not be significantly burdensome.
Yes.
Oh, you have it, will not be.
Where's my pen? Oh, here, I got it right here. Will not significantly burden the property and will not be detrimental to the neighborhood and is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. Any comments, gentlemen?
No.
No, that's fine.
All right, this would also require the additional conditions of necessary permits you're gonna get. You already got one, which is the Concom, but whatever permitting you're gonna need from any other town agencies, you gotta obtain those. So, there not being any further comment, I'll entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
I make a motion that we close the public meeting for special permit ZSP 26-2.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we approve special permit ZSP-26-2 with the stated findings and conditions.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you, both. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hope you'll be swimming by June.
It's up to
We'll keep our fingers
What is up
crossed.
to this guy?
Thank you,
Thank you for your
appreciate
time.
it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, gentlemen, is there any other business that you believe? Oh, we can go through all of the administrative stuff. We got plenty of time.
I think, why don't we take like a 15-minute recess just to go?
Sure, if you wanna go through this, absolutely.
I didn't really have.
All right,
anything else this
we're
one.
the board will be in recess.
Thank
The zoning board is back in session. Gentlemen, I'm going to take the liberty of moving some things out of order here. We're going to go into the administrative portion of tonight's meeting, and we're going to address some of the minutes that we have. So first I'd like to address, it's one of four matters. First is the review and approval of administrative minutes of January 22nd, 2026.
I have no comments.
I have nothing to add.
Gentlemen? All right.
I make a motion that we approve the administrative minutes of January 22nd, 2026 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Moving on to the review and approval of variance ZAV 25-14 minutes, State Road, map 53, lot 2.
I have nothing to
I
add.
have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Neither do I.
I make a motion that we approve the administrative minutes for variance ZAV-25-14 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Moving on to review and approval of variance ZAV 25-12, minutes of 1 Cleveland Street, continued from January 8th, 2026.
I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
I have nothing to add. Nothing. I make a motion that we approve the minutes for variance case ZAV-25-12, 1 Cleveland Street as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-2 for 498 Old Westport Road, continued from December 11, 2025.
I have nothing to add.
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Neither do I. Well, I do have something. I already addressed
Yeah.
it with Michelle. I'll give it to you here. Attorney Faria? Nothing. Doctor? Thank you. All right.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-2 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, that concludes that portion of the meeting. If there's anything else we need to discuss, any old business, new business?
Not really, no.
All
We don't have
right, so
anything, but-
we'll go into
Another recess.
probably a 15-minute recess. The zoning board is back in session. Moving on to the public hearings portion of tonight's meeting. The next matter that we have on is comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-3. This is a continued case. The petitioner is Philip Cordero on behalf of the Hathaway Dartmouth LLC, the owner, applicant via purchase and sale agreement. Property is known as map 57, lot 1, located on Hathaway Road. It's located within the single residence A district. The matter was legally advertised on December 18th and December 25th. We've already waived the reading of the abutters list at a prior meeting. The petitioner in this case is seeking a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law 40B, Sections 20 through 23.
Speak up a little louder. I'm hard of hearing.
I will, ma'am. And I'll do the best I can. The Comprehensive Permit Guidelines, 760 CMR 56 from the Massachusetts General Laws and Dartmouth zoning bylaw regulations. The petitioner is proposing a development on approximately 113 acres to be known as the Hathaway, to be located at Hathaway Road in the single residence A district. The development will have a total of 300 residential units. I'd just like to announce, we've previously announced this, but Dr. Agai has previously recused himself at prior hearings on this matter, and he is renewing that position of recusing himself.
Why is he here then?
Well, that's, excuse me?
That shocked me.
It kind of did. Well, we typically, if he had any voting that he was going to partake in, then he wouldn't be here, but there's no voting that he's going to be involved in, not even any input whatsoever.
I have read, maybe in Dartmouth,
You know something? I will ask him if he wants to. Dr. Agai, there's concerns with people in the public who feel that you should not be in the room if you're going to recuse yourself. I leave it up to you. If you want to stay, that's up to you, but they're asking.
Whatever the president, you decide whatever it is.
Well, I'm not going to, I'll leave it up to you to decide.
Is there any other room that I could hear what goes on?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, if he is not participating in any of the discussion or deliberations of the board, he's allowed to be in the audience the same as any other member of the public.
I agree with you. However, there have been different positions that have been brought to me in the past. I've been asked to actually leave the room myself. Rather than pushing the issue, I've left
Right.
on other concerns. But I believe that you're correct, that that would be the law, if there would be an applicable law for this. So, but I leave it upon him if, whatever he wants to do. What is it?
I would like to see Attorney Susan Murphy opinions, but
Anyway, moving on. So at this point in time, I'm going to call upon the petitioner or their representative to come forward and bring us up to date as to what's transpired since the last time you were before the board.
take all of those.
Chairman, just quickly, David Calhoun with Saxon Partners. I'm the applicant. Phil Cordero is our civil engineer. A couple of times we have referred to him as the applicant. He's the civil engineer, part of the team. Tonight, I'm joined by my associate, Jack Leffel, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major, our civil engineer, Mark Donahue from Fletcher Tilton, our attorney, and Jeff Dirk, our traffic engineer. Since we last met, we were awaiting peer review of the traffic study, and we also had already made some adjustments to our traffic study, some additional work you wanted us to look at. So if it's agreeable to the board, we understand that a peer review has been completed of the traffic. It was received by the town on April 1st. We have not received that yet. But your traffic engineer is here. So with Jeff here and your traffic engineer here, our hope for tonight would be for Jeff to run you through and give you some updates on the traffic, let your peer review basically report, have a traffic discussion. Once we finish that up, we would like to move to civil engineering. There was a request of the fire department that we create a secondary dedicated access just for the fire department. That came to us about 10 business days ago. We completed that design, submitted it back, and Phil is here to walk you through it. The board then asked us to do some, quote, modeling / sections of our development in comparison to the neighborhood over in Eisenhower. And Phil can also walk you through that. At the conclusion of those items, perhaps discussion on next steps.
All right, we could do that, and I thank you for, wanting to move this forward. But quite frankly, I'd feel more comfortable if we had, I forget his name, but your traffic consultant come forward. We'd have our traffic peer reviewer come forward and provide us an update as to what their understanding is. And then I'm going to open up the public comment on that issue tonight and see how far we go. I've always promised my board that we don't go beyond 8 o'clock on these things, so hopefully we'll see where we're at. If there is some time to discuss some of the, and present an opening with civil, then so be it. But if there isn't, then we'll have to push it to our next meeting. So at this
And Mr. Chair, as well, because you had directed and that recording of the last meeting was shared with the applicant and their counsel, that you had shared that this meeting was all going to be about traffic, your civil peer reviewer is not here tonight. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
That's fine. And obviously, if they just want to give us a brief overview, if there's time, that's one thing. But if there isn't, there isn't. And I'm sure there are a lot of people here that have a lot of questions about traffic. So we're going to try to ensure that we have that all answered as best as we can. So the floor is going to be yours, I believe.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, again, my name is Jeffrey Dirk, the managing partner with Vanessa and Associates, the transportation consultants on the project. So you had heard a presentation from me at the last public hearing on the overall summary of the transportation impact assessment. And I think as you heard from the applicant. Since that time, we've had the benefit of peer review and responded to that. And I think it would just be helpful. I'm going to do a very quick walkthrough of what we've done since the last time we were here before you. So you can go to the next slide, Jack. Thanks. So just by way of a kind of a chronological summary of where we've been and where we're at. So in January of this year, we submitted the formal full transportation impact assessment. I presented that to the board at the last hearing, which was on March 2nd, 2026. We took back comments from the board as well as from the public, and we also had the benefit of the peer review from Howard Stein Hudson, who is here tonight as well. They identified 26 comments or issue areas for us to address.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, it's the lady who has a hard of hearing. Could you speak a little more slowly? Because you're talking fast, and I know that's probably the way you always talk.
So, ma'am,
Words are kind of getting.
ma'am, so the thing is this, just by rules, and we have to follow them, right? We all do. If you have a concern, you have to address it to me, and then I will address it to him, okay?
I'm addressing it to you.
Okay, fair enough, you're addressing it, you're looking at him, but that's okay, you're addressing it to me. So I guess that she would like you to speak a little bit slower, and there's no reason to rush this tonight. We're gonna have time. I want everyone to have an opportunity to be heard on this issue, right? We're dealing with traffic tonight. I think she reminded me that at the last meeting, I hadn't remembered that, but at the last meeting, I said we're gonna deal with traffic. I think it might have said maybe solely traffic, but if we have time to delve into something else, we may do that. But people are gonna have an opportunity to raise their hand to speak. We will do that. I will give you an opportunity. But for now, we're going to hear from this expert. We're going to hear from our expert that we've hired to ensure that what this gentleman's doing is fair and accurate, and that it's addressed the concerns that you may have. So there's a process. We'll get there. I'm sure by the end of tonight, you may not be happy with the results, but you'll know that these things were addressed and you were going to be heard. All right.
Thank you.
And just as a friendly reminder, if you could, not so fast, that's all.
Yep.
All right? But I do want to thank whoever put this together. It's good size print for me, that's great. All right?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start over again. So on January of this year, we submitted the transportation impact assessment for the project, which I presented to this board at the last public hearing, which was on March 2nd of this year. On March 6th, we received a peer review letter or memorandum from the board's peer review consultant, who you will hear from tonight, that identified 26 issue areas or comments on both the transportation impact assessment as well as the site plans that were submitted for the project. On March 23rd, we issued a response to each of those 26 comments that were raised. And as we understand, the board has received a draft, at least, of the peer review consultant's review of our response to their comments. I optimistically indicated that either tonight or I think shortly thereafter, we will receive that subsequent review of our follow-up response to comments, at which time we'll address any lingering questions or comments that the reviewer may have. Next slide, please.
Thank you for that procedural history.
So I thought by way of kind of going through or providing an expeditious way of looking at the 26 comments that were raised, I would just give you a summary of the major items that were addressed or asked to be addressed as a part of the peer review comments. So the first is the study area. The board as well as the audience had inquired as to why the Rockdale Avenue intersection with Hathaway Road was not included in our transportation assessment, because that does provide a connection from Hathaway Road down to Route 6 and get you into New Bedford. So there was a request that we add that to the study area in the transportation assessment. That was also reiterated by your review consultant, so we have done that. So traffic counts were performed at that intersection. We updated the motor vehicle crash history to include that intersection, and we provided that analysis as a part of the response to comments letter. We were also asked to obtain local crash data. So this was crash records from the Dartmouth Police Department as well as the New Bedford Police Department. Both of those police departments have pulled all of the crash records for us. We have to pay a fee to have them pull that information. We've paid the fee, so now they're going to provide that to us. So I would say in terms of follow-up to our response letters, we need to summarize that data. I believe Dartmouth has already assembled everything, and I think it's probably on its way to us in the mail. New Bedford does the same thing. So I expect probably within the next week, we'll receive that local data to be able to kind of check the box as to how that compares to the information that's available through the Department of Transportation. The next item was on vehicle parking, and this kind of crosses over to the site plan as well. We had discussion about land bank parking and also about the parking ratio, and I think the board had reminded us of some previous decisions of projects that they have in terms of looking at a specific parking ratio that they had approved for other projects. So there was a discussion about basically documenting how much parking are you constructing, how much is going to be land banked, and so we've done that and reconciled what those numbers look like as well. And then as a follow-on to that, there was also some questions about if we allow land banking of parking, what is the mechanism for us to have that parking constructed if it's needed? And so in our response letter, we've outlined a parking monitoring program for the project, which essentially has us going out and monitoring the parking as the project is constructed. We've made some suggestions as to when that benchmarking would take place. The first benchmarking or monitoring would occur at 80% of occupancy. Then we would then go back out and undertake the monitoring at 6 months thereafter, and then 12 months thereafter. So it's essentially monitoring that parking for 3 time periods as the project is constructed. And again, this is just our suggestion, but we would suggest that we establish an initial baseline at 80% occupancy or some level of occupancy, and then you'd want to go back and visit it as the project is kind of built out, and then just kind of have a final check within 12 months thereafter. And the purpose of that is to say if we're land banking the parking, you'd want some monitoring. So if we were showing that we needed more parking, essentially, that would be the trigger for the parking being constructed. The monitoring program would document to you how the parking is actually being occupied, would then allow the building inspector through your condition of approval to say you need to build the parking. So we identified that. Bicycle parking, we also have quantified the number of bicycle parking spaces that will be provided and where they will be provided in the site. There was a comment about the transportation improvement program, so we specifically identified some improvements, both physical construction of improvements, signs, pavement markings, signal retiming and such that would be undertaking. Your review consultant had asked us to kind of clarify what our approach was to that mitigation. What are you building? What is being deferred to grant applications and that? So we've outlined that in our response letter for the review consultant. On-site circulation for fire trucks, moving vans, and trash and recycling vehicles. So that's a part of the site plan, but your transportation consultant also reviews circulation. So we provided some updated drawings to show how those vehicles circulate within the site. A site triangle plan, I'm going to show that in a few minutes. One of the things I know the board is very familiar with Hathaway Road. As you look at where the driveway is, we talked a lot about topography within the property itself. There's also topography on Hathaway Road, and that affects our site distance calculations. And so your review consultant had asked us to look at how the grade of Hathaway Road is accounted for in our site distance calculations. And then I said in a minute, I'll show you a drawing of that. And then lastly is construction management. One of the things, I don't want to say it's often overlooked, but is overlooked as we go through the assessment of the project is construction-related management activities. So really, we had presented to the board a transportation demand management program, but there's also management as it relates to construction vehicles as well. So this is really about reducing the amount of construction-related traffic. And then also, I think importantly, looking at all the neighborhood streets is making sure that trucks are not driving through neighborhood streets, that we're keeping them on designated truck routes. And so we've also outlined that to some extent as well as a part of our response letter. So now I'm just going to go through a couple more slides and just to kind of go through what we've done. Jack, next slide. So this slide here, just again, you've seen this as the past meeting, just shows the context of the project site in relation to the transportation infrastructure. Interstate 195, you can see clearly running in the east-west direction just to the north of the project site, and then Route 140 to the east side of the project site you can see as well. You will not see Rockdale Road on this because it's very difficult to see, but we'll go to the next slide, Jack. Thank you. And so you can see that we've added the additional intersection with Rockdale just to the it would be to the northeast of the project site, all the way down to where it intersects with Route 6. So we've included traffic counts, also looking at pedestrian and bicycle accommodations along that roadway. And then, Jack, you can go to the next slide. Just reminding you of the amount of trips associated with the project. So the top number, the 1,338, is the two-way 24-hour volume. The next two volumes are the amount of traffic that's produced during each of the peak hours on a weekday. So weekday morning peak hour, 118 vehicle trips. Weekday evening peak hour, 111 vehicle trips. The box underneath the table defines what those peak hours are. Just because I think we had some questions at the last hearing. As you look at the peak hour numbers, it's not, one trip or two trips produced by each unit during the peak hour. And what we're showing here is the highest amount of traffic that occurs during a 1 hour period in the morning between 7 and 9. There's more traffic that occurs outside of those hours, but the amount of traffic that's produced outside of that individual peak hour is less than the numbers that we have on this slide here. But the total would add up to 1,338. Next slide, Jack. So what I wanted to show on the next two slides was the impact of adding the additional intersection in Rockdale to the study area. So this is our original dispersal model. So back to that table I showed with the peak hour numbers, we added that traffic onto the roadway network based on the distribution that you see here. Now this is the distribution before we added Rockdale. Next slide, Jack. And this is the slide after. The effect of this is that traffic that wants to head to and from the east of the project site, primarily along Route 6, we had originally assigned it down Slocum Road to get to Route 6 to travel to the east. Now, as we add in the Rockdale intersection, that traffic will now use Rockdale. So there's a shift. It actually removes some traffic from Slocum Road because logically, if you can come out of the site, turn left coming out, and then a quick right, that's your quickest travel route to get down to Route 6. And so this diagram has been updated to reflect that change in the trip distribution, which, as I said, does reduce some of the impacts along Slocum Road.
1 second, sir.
I have a question.
We're going to wait till everyone's done, that both their expert and our expert. The two experts are going to speak first, and then I'm going to open it up for public comment, okay? All right, but keep in mind, if you need to write it down, we'll give you a piece of paper, but keep it in mind so that you'll be able to ask.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have a piece of paper?
Sure. There you go.
No, that's
No, there it is.
Right.
That's not,
Give her that. I'll give you another one. She's fine. Let's see what happens.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think on this sheet 8, the revised, we're now at 105%. I don't know if it was changed to reduce the 5% that was added for Rockdale doesn't appear to have been reduced on another one, unless my math is wrong. 35, 45, 50, 60, 70, 105%. So I don't know if there's now 105% of the traffic shown.
All right, well, I'm sure he's going to blame it on his associate. He's the one that handed this out, so he didn't do the math correctly. But I would presume that there'd be a 5% lessening somewhere else, or maybe it'd be broken up a little
10%,
differently.
of the 10% to and from the east of the project site, 5% of it goes up Rockdale, and then the other 5% was assigned down to Slocum Road. So that's how the 10% was broken up.
Well, they're not supposed to add up to 100?
The external numbers, the 30, the 8, the 10, Yeah, actually, I think the problem is that 5, well, no, that's actually the 5%.
10% at the end of
The
Slocum.
10% at the end, the 5 gets added to the 10. So that's where I guess that's where that 5 shouldn't be there, is what you're saying, Susan?
No, the Slocum should go down to 5.
The Slocum is 5 and that has the turning movement there.
The Slocum says 10.
It's- All right.
It's okay.
Look, we do know this. The
Yeah.
traffic is
So-
going to be the
so let me
traffic.
be very
Now,
clear.
But these are
Yeah.
guesstimates. You don't know for sure
No,
what the percentage is.
No. Let me be very clear on this. So if you look at, so those of you that have the figure in front of you, and I'm sorry this is so small for everyone that's in the audience. No, I don't need that. The 10% of the traffic that is shown on the Republic of the Highway, 10% to and from the east of the site. As you get down to the Hathaway Road, Hathaway Avenue, or Rockdale Avenue intersection, if you look at the figures that you have in front of you, 5% turns up that road, heads up to Hathaway, and then turns left. Of that 10%, 5% goes up, 5% continues along the Slocum Road, and then turns up Slocum Road. There is still 10% coming from Slocum Road this way, from this area where the school is located. So that's how the numbers add up. What the issue is where we're showing the 5% arrow with the two-way head there. If you add up all of the black arrows, you're right, it comes up to 105%. So it's that black 5% arrow that really shouldn't be there. That 5% actually comes from the 10% that is coming to and from the New Bedford side. So that's where the error is.
Okay. What is it?
So I apologize for that. That's where the error is. But the trips that were assigned to the roadway network were assigned correctly.
Okay.
In terms of that 10%, that's how it adds up. But if, yes, the black arrows, the 30, the 5, the 10, the 10, the 20, the 15, and the 10 should all add up to 100%, which they
Just for a
do.
moment. Folks in the audience, we have to record this, and then it has to be transposed onto typewritten form. She needs to be able to hear it with the background noise. She's not going to be able to hear it on the tape. I need it to be no conversation while the gentleman's speaking. Please. Thank you. Continue.
Sure. Are there any other questions on this before I turn the page?
I think I understand you.
So the black 5% arrow that's incorrect. The smaller arrows are all correct on that. So the last slide I want to show is the site triangle slide, which is what we've shown here. So looking at Hathaway Road, the road slopes upward to toward New Bedford. So this would be to the east of the project site at about 6%. So as you're going up the hill, as it relates to site distances, if you think about driving your vehicle, you go slower as you're going up the hill, you go faster as you're going down the hill. If you think about trying to stop your vehicle, it's easier to stop your vehicle on an upgrade than it is on a downgrade. And so because of that, we make corrections to the site distances that are calculated for intersections. So in this case, the site distance going up the hill is 360 feet, approaching from the west, heading toward the east. But if you're heading from the east, traveling toward the west, the site distance instead of 360 feet is 380 feet. So there's an increase of about 20 feet in the site distance because of the grade going down the hill, because it takes you a longer distance to stop your vehicle as you're going down the hill. The site distance that's available is greater than 620 feet. So this is just again, a question from your review consultant just to verify that we've accounted for the grade of Hathaway Road, which we've done, and we've shown it on the slight triangle. But again, our available site distance far exceeds what's required for even with the grade corrections that we applied. So that concludes kind of my summary, and I guess I'll turn it over to back to the chair to answer any questions or to hear from your consultant.
Fair.
Yes.
So at the end of the prior hearing, and this information was provided to the applicant's team, there was a discussion about this presentation. Mr. Dirk, as you can remember, was trying to go fast last time, and he had 3 or 4 slides that were all the potential mitigation to address the traffic that got went through very fast. And so the request had been that the mitigation be represented so that everyone, the board, and the public can understand it. So I don't know if Mr. Dirk has his presentation from last time to walk through what the proposed mitigation is, but that was not fully discussed last time and was requested to be represented tonight.
So if you bear with me, Mr. Chairman, we'll see if we can bring up the old presentation.
This is going to take a couple moments to connect the microphone. Proceed with something else.
Well, I can walk through the recommendations, Mr. Chairman, if it's helpful.
That's fine,
Sure. So as you might recall, as we went through the initial kind of high-level summary of the transportation assessment, we had some locations that were defined as high crash locations, meaning that they had a crash rate that was higher than the Mass DOT average crash rate. So we have a series of recommendations that are intended to address safety at those intersections. And then we also have some physical improvements that relate to either missing signs or pavement markings or operational issues that could be addressed through specific improvements at intersections. So safety improvements and capacity improvements are the two buckets that we put those improvements into. We also have what's known as transportation demand management measures as well, which are measures to reduce the traffic and parking demands associated with the project. So the first location that we identified as a high crash location requiring mitigation is the Route 6 intersection with Hathaway Road and the Burger King driveway. That location historically has been a high crash location. It also is a location that has queuing relating to some backups, specifically on the Hathaway Road approach to the intersection. We did identify that the state Mass DOT does have an improvement project listed for that intersection that includes signalization of the intersection. It's currently listed for funding for the construction commencement in the spring of 2027. Monies have been allocated to that project. It's on the Transportation Improvement Program list for the 2027 program year. So no additional improvements we've suggested are needed at that intersection beyond the signalization that's going to take place as a part of the MassDOT project. And again, funding is committed to that improvement project. It still remains on the tip list for a construction start in 2027. The Route 6 Slocum Road is also a high crash location. So we did identify some potential improvement measures to address the crashes occurring at that intersection. They entailed looking at the traffic signal timing at the intersection and specifically the safety-related performance measures in the timing, which is the yellow and all red clearance intervals. So the yellow phase is the vehicle phase that allows you to clear the intersection if you're not able to stop prior to a red indication. And then the all red is if you can't stop and you've gotten into the intersection, the light stays red on all approaches to allow you to actually clear the intersection before a green light comes up. So there are specific timing parameters for those clearance phases that the state sets. And so one of the things to do is to look at those timings to make sure that they meet standards, not only as they relate to Mass DOT's current standards, but also the speed of traffic that's on the roadway, because the yellow and all red are set based on the actual speed of traffic going through the intersection. And then the last safety timing phase is the pedestrian phase time, so making sure that there's sufficient time for a pedestrian to cross the intersection. So we'd suggested all of those should be reviewed. We did look at the signal equipment that's at the intersection and identified some specific things that could be replaced or enhanced at the intersection, dealing with adding back plates to the signal heads, reflective yellow tape around the borders of the signal heads, and such improvements such as that at the intersection. So those are all safety-related physical improvements that can be done and proven to enhance the visibility of the signal indications at the intersection. So we've suggested that that is something that can be done. One of the things we identified as to the specific type of crashes is there's a lot of rear-end crashes that are occurring at the intersection. Those rear-end crashes can be attributable to signal timing, which we said we would adjust, but also if the vehicle detection system is not operating properly. Sometimes it's broken, needs to be repaired, or there's some settings in that need to be adjusted. So testing and repairing the vehicle detection system is something that we said also should be done at the intersection. And then lastly, reapplying the signs, the stop lines and the crosswalks at the intersection on all legs are also something as a safety measure that we've suggested should be done at that intersection. That intersection does not currently have an improvement project, and that's why we've identified some specific physical improvements to be done at the intersection. At the Hathaway Road, Slocum Road intersection and the Hathaway Road, Wilbur Avenue intersection, we did identify some sign and pavement marking improvements to be done at those locations. There is delays if you're trying to exit either from Slocum Road onto Hathaway or from Wilbur Avenue onto Hathaway. The project doesn't significantly exacerbate those delays, but again, in looking at the existing conditions, there is the need, given the fact that we're increasing traffic, to enhance the signs and markings. So we've made some suggestions as to what could be done at those locations. Primarily replacement of the stop signs and the stop lines on the approaches to Hathaway Road. The next two locations are in New Bedford, and these are the locations with the Route 140 ramps. Aside from the discrepancy on that trip distribution slide that we talked about, most of our traffic, if you look at it, about 70% is somehow or some way ending up at that interchange. So we have most of the traffic is up at that area there. So the interchange with the Route 140 and Hathaway Road is they're both high crash locations, but they also have capacity related issues in that we noted if you're getting off of the highway or off of Route 140, there's delays in vehicle queuing that occurs on the ramps themselves. So in looking at those two buckets of mitigation I had discussed, so for the safety-related mitigation at those intersections, we're really looking at some enhancements to signs and pavement markings that could take place, and looking at the types of crashes. We are identifying, the opportunities for stop signs, stop lines, where there aren't any. Some addition of some reflective red tape to the signposts where the stop signs are located. And then as you approach those intersections, they're quite wide and they're devoid of pavement markings. So specifically white edge line pavement markings to narrow up the roadway, but also to provide proper positioning of vehicles as they're approaching the intersections. So at both intersections, we've identified sign and pavement marking enhancements. Looking at capacity related enhancements, in order to reduce the backups that are currently occurring on the ramps, you do need to implement some level of traffic control. So currently they're under stop sign control, so the next level of traffic control would be to install traffic signals at those locations. Modern roundabouts, which would be the other alternative, there's not enough right-of-way or property at either one of the ramps to install that type of a device. So the enhancement would really be installing traffic signals, something that is beyond kind of what this project could fund at both those locations. There would be several $1 million to install traffic signals. And again, those are MassDOT intersections in the city of New Bedford. However, with the fact that we have affordable housing going in at this location here, there is the opportunity for grants to allow for some physical improvements to be made there. Again, those safety enhancements, but also those operational opportunities of installing traffic signals. So that's where we've suggested that to the extent that the city of New Bedford and MassDOT were interested in having traffic signals installed as a part of this project, we could facilitate the grant application through the city of New Bedford to improve the interchange and install traffic signals at both of those intersections. Again, the creation of affordable housing at this location, with that interchange being a critical location for traffic to be entering and exiting from the property, but also for residents of the town. and the city of New Bedford, it does open up that opportunity for state grant money to improve the intersections. So we've committed to doing that. And then the last set of recommendations are the transportation demand management recommendations. There is no public bus service available at the project site, but that doesn't mean that there's not measures that we can undertake to try to reduce the amount of traffic that's associated with the project. So the transportation demand management program are things that the applicant and the management team of the property would undertake to be able to let residents know what's available in terms of public transportation resources. So although we might not be able to directly reduce the amount of traffic on Hawthorne or Hathaway Road, what we can do is make them aware of opportunities to reduce regional traffic. So the New Bedford Fall River commuter rail line, letting them know where the station is, how to get there, what the service schedules are, things like that, so that they're aware of how to get there from the area. And again, the idea would be try to reduce regional traffic demands. I spoke about bicycle parking within the project site. So we have weather-protected bicycle parking within the project, within the buildings. We also have exterior bicycle parking. There are not bicycle lanes on this section of roadway where the project site is located, but if you go toward the New Bedford side, you do see that they've started to develop bicycle lanes. At some point, that will extend down into Dartmouth as well. So the idea is to be able to provide some opportunities to be able to connect up to those future opportunities. That is the end of my presentation as it relates to the mitigation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have now or after you hear from your consultant.
Sure. Gentlemen, you have any questions?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair. Let's hear from the peer review first.
Attorney Thorne? Okay. You can step down.
Thank you, sir.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do my best to speak slowly and clearly to please everybody. So, for the record, my name is Stephen Finland. I'm with Howard Stein Hudson. We're a transportation engineering and planning firm. We've got about 120 employees with 4 offices located in Massachusetts. We specialize in transportation, and I run our Bridgewater office. So, my experience, I've been in this industry for over 30 years. I do a lot of peer reviews for other municipalities, but I also do traffic studies as well. So I kind of see both sides of kind of how things are done. So I think I bring that here to the town. And really what my role is, or our role is on this project, is to really take the information that's provided to the town, to us, and review it to confirm that all the information goes to all the standards, to the town standards, things like that. And that goes to the traffic study as well as the site plan. So that's what we do. So we look through it in detail. Some of those traffic studies are very lengthy. We spend the time, we go through those. So our role on behalf of the Zoning Board of Appeals is to do that. And our services are not paid for by the town, they're actually paid for by the applicant. So we're here tonight to talk about, kind of where we're at. I do want to say that I did watch the March 2nd hearing. I was not here. I actually watched it in its entirety. It was quite a long meeting. It was, seemed like a long night for you folks, but I did watch it. And listened to some of the concerns and as we did our reviews. So I think there was a timeline that was presented earlier. I just want to kind of repeat it. So we submitted our initial review letter on March 6th, where what we identified as 26 issues. And those go back to some of the concerns that we had on things that really we may need additional information on, that may conflict with what the town requires. So that was submitted on March 6th, like I said. The applicant, as they stated, submitted a letter to us dated March 23rd, responding to those issues. I also want to say it wasn't on their timeline, but a revised site plan was also submitted on March 30th, which was dated March 22nd. So that came in after the actual responses from the applicant came in. But we did get that, and we're looking at that. So currently where we're at is we're in the process of reviewing and preparing our letter. We haven't finalized our letter. We're here tonight to listen to the board, to the public, and then as we work through it, we'll finalize our letter and we'll submit it to the town and it'll be forwarded along to the applicant. So contrary to what was said, we have not submitted a final letter for the public. So that being said, I know the applicant's traffic consultant went through a lot of the issues. I'm not going to go through all 26, but I would like to comment on a few of them, kind of where we're at and what we've received in. So the first one I think has to do with the study area. We had asked the applicant to look at if any of these intersections generate more than 5%. And from that, they came back and said that the Hathaway and the Rockdale Ave intersection does that. So they actually added that to their study area. They went out and did traffic counts. They included that. I think, some of the trip distribution that was talked about earlier was done. Some of the figures were updated, and that was provided to us. We did look at that analysis, and we did see some inconsistencies with actually what's out there today based on the information that was provided. So we're going to be asking the applicant to kind of look at that intersection and the analysis that was provided to potentially do some field calibrations to see what's out there is actually what it says it is, and potentially, do some field observations and things like that. Because, the model can tell you one thing, but you go out there, sometimes things will tell you differently. So that was one thing that we're going to be asking them to go back and look at. A few other things, had to do with some of their traffic data collection, some of how they collected their volumes. We were okay with that. The next issue I wanted to bring up was the crash data. I think it was stated earlier. When we first got the study, it was, in accordance to the MassDOT, 2018 to 2022, because that's really what the most recent information that they have. However, there are cases where we do ask the applicant to go and ask the local, police departments for more recent information. So we've asked for that, and I've heard earlier that they're going to be, they're doing that. They'll compile that information. That'll be provided to us. So if the crashes, if there's more crashes in more recent years, we'll know that. And then some of the other things, just going through the list, we talked about background growth. I think that was something that needed to be revised. We're looking at that to make sure that the numbers do all add up. So that's something that we'll look at. And then, some of the, typically in a traffic study like this, they do identify other roadway improvements that are on the books, let's just say. So they did that. They've identified those, and I think some of the things were talked about earlier. I'll get to that in a second. I know trip generation was brought up at the last hearing. The Land Use Code 221 that was used, we did look at that. That is typical for a project like this, for suburban location, and the information that comes from that, is right out of the IT Institute of Transportation Engineers, and that'll tell you exactly a project like this will generate. So, and I think the item of a Saturday, why wasn't Saturday done for a residential project like this? You typically don't do a Saturday analysis. You focus on the weekday mornings and afternoon peaks. So that was something I believe that was brought up at the last hearing. So I just wanted to mention something like that that was brought up. And like I said, we're looking at that. We're looking at the responses. I do want to touch on the parking that was provided. As currently proposed at opening, the applicant is proposing 341 spaces for the 300 units, which equates to about a 1.14 spaces per unit. So we were a little concerned with that, so we brought up the idea of potentially looking at, doing some monitoring, because the last thing you want to have out here is not enough parking. So, like I said, that 1.14 was associated with the 341 spaces. They've identified what they call these land bank spaces, which are spaces that could be constructed within the footprint of the site as is. So if they were to use all of the land bank spaces, which I believe are 131, it would bring them to a total of 472 total spaces on site, which equates to about 1.57 spaces per unit. And like I said, our concern is, when they at 90%, 80% occupancy, things like that, we want to make sure that the original number that they proposed makes sense. And if it doesn't, they're going to have to add these land-based spaces. So, and the other thing I wanted to bring up, because what you do on a parking study or a parking generation for a site like this is to, again, look at the Institute of Transportation Engineers parking generation document. It's a book that you look at. So they've done that, and they've used the applicable. And based on that information, the 1.57 is higher than what IT would require for something like this. So, but like I said, we raised that concern that there's enough parking here, but like I said, we're still reviewing the information and things like that. Trip distribution, we already talked about. The traffic analysis obviously is something that we look at in very closely to make sure it's done. The analysis that was done seems to be done, the way it should be done. The TDM measures that were just discussed were also something that we looked at as well. It seems applicable here. So it gets into the off-site mitigation. I know that the applicant just kind of summarized what they talked about at the last meeting. We're looking at those off-site mitigations, specifically at the locations that were described earlier. There's quite a few of them. And, basically from what we've seen has been, this is what's going to be done. So we're going to ask the applicant for some additional information in terms of, details on what some of these improvements are going to look like, from a conceptual level, and, how these are going to, look, because we want to see kind of what it's going to look like. So that's something that we're going to be asking for at several of the locations. And we're also going to, we want to have a level, and we want the town to have a level of comfort of, how these improvements are going to be built. The applicant talked a little bit earlier about their fair share contribution, about how much traffic would be added, and what typically is done with that. If they're generating X number of vehicles, and they're going to contribute X number of dollars to go to these improvements. So that's something that we've asked for the applicant. The site access and circulation, we did look at that as well. There's a couple things that we've asked for clarification on that. One specifically had to do with some of the move-in, move-out operations. So it seems like they've done that. And then we also wanted to confirm that a fire truck can get in and around this site safely without any issues. So we've asked them to coordinate or, confirm that they've had conversations with the fire chief to do that. So it seems like that has happened. So, and we've also, we want to make sure that the chief or the department is told the applicant the correct apparatus, the size of the vehicle, to make sure this is what's going to be out there. So that's something we've asked for as well. So, and then I think the site distance was talked about. I know there's been a proposed streetscape wall and some plantings that are being proposed. So we just want to make sure that the sight lines, safety is very important for any project we review. So we just want to make sure, and I think you saw some of the site triangles here, and was also talked about earlier is, when we first got the stopping site distance and some of the site distance calculations, it didn't take into account some of the slope change that, we had observed out there too. So I heard earlier that it sounds like that's something that, they've looked at, and we just want to make sure that there's enough stopping site distance, intersect site, distance like that to make sure there's no issues in the future related to safety. So with that, I know I've kind of bounced around, but like I said, there was 26 issues that were resolved. We're in the process of reviewing the information, and once we finalize our review, we'll be sending it off. So I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Attorney Newman, any questions of this gentleman at this time? No questions. Mr. Schuba?
No, not at this time.
I don't. So at this time, I'm going to call upon anyone in the audience who has any questions, that the questions have to be directed to the board first, and then we'll determine who is the best person to actually answer that question, or the one that would be most appropriate to answer it. When you come up, please state your name as clearly as possible and your address, because we have to record all of this. So you had a question. Come on up.
I have to stand up in front of you?
You can go right up there. The podium, yeah, the podium. You can bring the microphone down a little bit. Name and address.
Watch out. One of my concerns is there's a lot of talk.
You have to identify yourself.
Name and address.
Oh, sorry. My name is Geraldine Perry Lopes, and I live on Eisenhower Street. And do I need to give my number on Eisenhower Street as well?
If you'd like, yes.
I don't have to.
That's fine. If you don't want to give the number, you don't have to give the number.
Okay. There aren't too many houses to choose from anyway. One of the big things that stands out to me is that, in all honesty, a lot of these presentations are based on pipe dreams, suppositions. For example, what the state is supposed to do down at Hathaway Road and Route 6. They've been talking about that for 20 years, and we haven't heard anything about when they're actually going to start. Now, does anyone have a response to that?
No, you got to continue.
Okay.
2027.
Well, then, again, they seem to be depending a lot on the town, and what's the town going to do? Well, they can't make the town do anything. And if, for example, Wilbur Avenue, exiting from Wilbur onto Hathaway Road, if you're going to take a left turn, is dangerous because there's a hill there. And when you come out, you can't see down the hill, and the cars come up pretty fast. And I know that from walking, driving, and what have you in that area for many years. The things they're talking about, like stop signs, is what I understood, and various things they wanted to add. Again, that falls on the town or the state. So who says that any of that's going to happen? And what if it doesn't? Then we're stuck with more traffic, more danger, because my family's been in accidents at the top of Eisenhower Street a long time ago, but it happens because getting out onto Hathaway Road from Eisenhower Street and presumably from Dean and Kennedy as well is a very dangerous business. The cars come very fast, shall we say, and it's very hard to get out, especially if you want to take a right turn. So, in essence, what's happened to my life, and I don't know about any other neighbors, but I have different ways of driving now because I can't go the way I used to go. Like, I never come down Wilbur anymore and take a left onto Hathaway Road because it's too dangerous. So I have to go down Bryant Lane to Slocum Road, take a right on Slocum, and then when I get to Hathaway Road, take a right on Hathaway. It's definitely safer, but it's a lot more trouble, and not anybody would know that unless they lived in the area. That's all I can recall right now. I didn't bring my paper with me, but trust me, I'll have more questions.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Great. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Paula Almeida. I live at 58 Wilbur Avenue, and please correct me if I'm wrong on some of the details, but I had some questions on the applicant's traffic study speaker. I didn't really hear any details, specific details, of what they're going to do in terms of traffic mitigation at Wilbur and Hathaway Road. just like the prior speaker came up and talked about, it is very dangerous. You can't see the traffic coming up Hathaway Road, heading north, and it's very, very dangerous. And I'm not quite sure what they want the town to add there. Is that going to be a light or a stop sign? Because we already have a stop sign. So did you guys hear what the speaker said they were going to do? At the intersection of Wilbur and Hathaway Road.
We'll ask them, and
Okay.
we'll ask our consultant if there's anything that they feel needs to be done there first. And if he does feel that something needs to be done, then we'll pose the question to the petitioners.
Perfect. The other intersection would be Slocum Road and Hathaway Road. Same thing. A lot of traffic stops there to make a left on Slocum Road. A lot of cars go around it. It looked like from one of the images that was shown in the presentation that one of the buildings is going to be to the right of the church that's on Hathaway Road. Is that correct? Is that where the entrance is going to be to the project or to the Hathaway?
We can put the plan up and show you where that's.
That would be
gonna
okay,
as
because
well.
I think that's going to be another area of congestion that I don't think was presented, or at least I didn't hear the details of how they were going to mitigate the traffic at that intersection. The applicant, the traffic expert also brought up the Route 6 and Hathaway Road and how the state, the Department of Transportation for the state is going to start redoing that intersection in 2027. Was that calendar year 2027 or was it fiscal year 2027? If that could be.
We'll ask that as well.
Okay. I drive to Boston, and I follow Hathaway Road down to 140. And the intersection there with Rosie's gas station, Dunkin' Donuts, all kinds of traffic going in, it is, I'm a pretty good driver, actually pretty aggressive driver. And I can get around people that are not blinking to get into the gas station, going around them. I think this project, adding the increased vehicle activity, is going to create some problems. Not at that not only at that intersection there, which is a major intersection, where you get 140 South, 140 North, you've got the gas station, and New Bedford is thinking of doing something in that area. They want to do an industrial park. So not that that's a problem for the town, but it will be. My last 2 points is Cumberland Farms, so Slocum Road and Route 6. That is also another hotspot. And if this project is going to be Hathaway Road near the church, that's going to be an incredible, we're going to have some major traffic congestion. You have Bishop Stang, you have middle school, you have an elementary school. It's just, I would like to end in this. I know we're talking about traffic at this meeting, but has the board considered maybe, instead of 300 units, less units? Would that be workable? And that's it.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, I'm going to call upon our expert to address some of this. You can come up, please. So there's a concern about what type of traffic mitigation has been proposed, if any at all, with Wilbur Avenue and Hathaway Road. Well, we're going to get to that one. We'll do one at a time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just pulling out my notes, too, to make
How
sure.
familiar you are with that particular intersection, but
Oh, I am, yeah, very familiar. But I believe the improvements that were talked about specifically at Wilbur Ave and Hathaway had to do with the stop sign and the marked stop line. And then just taking that a step further, I just was flipping.
I think that the concerned resident has indicated that there's already a stop sign there.
There
that
is.
location.
So we've asked them to actually add a stop bar.
Meaning, hold on. You gotta come to me, all right? Otherwise, this falls apart fast. So can you describe to me what a stop bar is?
So a stop bar is essentially the painted material that goes on the roadway.
And it's
so it's-
usually white paint?
It should follow the typical standards that are required according to MUTCD, the Manual Uniform of
What's
Traffic.
the expected improvement that you can, that one could expect to come from that being there. I don't see, I look at that as just nominal, but I don't know anything about traffic.
Yeah, I mean, and the applicant's consultant can follow up too if he feels like it, but they're really saying that there's an existing stop sign there today. They've analyzed the conditions at Hathaway and Wilbur, which I believe is what the concern was. And in terms of the level of service is kind of what you look at for an unsignalized. They've presented that material, those results. So based on that, for the no-build condition, which was the 2032, as well as the 2033 build condition, we weren't seeing, based on the analysis, anything that was beyond, I think the worst we were seeing was level of service C. Like I said earlier, we would like to see some calibrations or some field observations to confirm these as well. So,
Now, you just rambled a couple things off, and again.
Sorry.
He knows what you're saying.
yeah,
I
and he's
don't
shaking his head
necessarily know
no,
what
so
you're
I'm a
saying.
little
You
concerned.
say based on 2032 and 2033. What is that?
So I'll just take it a step back. So what the typical procedure is in developing a traffic study, so the first thing that you do is you take,
Excuse me, I can't hear him and also, all right, thank you.
so typically what you do when you're preparing a traffic study is first thing you're going to go out and do is traffic counts. So that's what you identify as your existing condition. So that really shows what's out there today. So then what you do, and I think the applicant stated a little bit earlier, and what's included in their study, is you need to project a future condition, what we call a no-build condition. So typically, MassDOT requires the 7-year window to do that. So that's what you call your 2033 no-build condition. So that's the analysis without the project. So then what you do is you take that no-build condition, you add in the trips that are going to be generated by this project, and then you plop those into the no-build to create that 2033 build condition. And then you analyze those numbers. So that's what the applicant is saying is going to be out there when the project is built in the future.
And is that the analysis that they conducted on this?
They did. And that was conducted in conformance in how a typical traffic study is done.
Your opinion that that's accurate?
The methodology and how their analysis did, yes.
Okay. The methodology is accurate, and also the calculations based on that methodology are accurate.
Those of us who aren't savvy traffic people, does that mean that, are you saying, or is everybody saying that there'll be no additional traffic from this project?
I'm not saying that, and the applicant is not saying that. They're showing that there will be impacts from this project, and they're looking at how they're going to address those impacts. And they're looking at the off-site mitigation.
Usually somebody comes up with a number. There'll be 2 additional cars, there'll be 3 additional cars on the roadways. Is there anything in these that says that?
Yes.
And what is it?
It depends on each intersection.
So it goes back to the original existing conditions. They look at what we call the study area intersections. And I think you saw them earlier on that plan, the locus plan. They identify which intersections are going to be mostly impacted from this project. Additional traffic, and I think they showed what we call the trip distribution, where they're coming and going, what's being generated and where they're coming and going. So then you kind of drill down a little bit more and you look at the intersections for that build condition, and you present what that analysis is going to be. In some of the analysis, we were seeing, they are showing some substandard operating conditions out there, which takes you to the next step. How are you going to address those concerns? That leads you into the off-site mitigation, what you're proposing and how you're going to, make that happen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, the bigger problem is who's going to pay for it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, like I stated earlier, that's something that we're in the process of, we're going to throw something back to the consultant. We want to get some more information. Let's say, one of the things that was talked about is applying for a grant to make these improvements happen. If that grant doesn't happen, then what happens? Who's on the hook? So that's something that we've asked for additional information on, or we will be asking for additional information on, and we want to hear what they have to say about that.
Right. right, so of all the intersections that have been analyzed, which one, and if you don't know the answer right now, I'll give you an opportunity at a later time this evening or even another date. Which one will have the greatest increase or impact in number of cars that will create a queue or slow things down? Of the intersections that have been analyzed, I would think that maybe Hathaway Road and Route 6 would be one of concern, and also Hathaway Road and 140, but 140 and Hathaway Road, but I'm only guessing based on what I know as a layperson and what I experience as a layperson driving these roadways.
Yeah, I don't want to take the time to go through each one of them, but we could talk about that at the next hearing and look at that a little bit more in detail. But, there are some locations that, in what I described earlier was the 2033 no-build condition without the project, are operating below level of service. They're operating at level of service F, which means they're failing today.
So there's already a problem that exists at this point in time.
Correct. And we've clearly, they're stated that. We've confirmed that. But we're also saying, okay, what are you going to do about it? And, that leads into the off-site mitigation. And then how much they're willing to contribute. I'm sorry, I don't remember what the other questions were.
I'm just listening. There was another question about the, I think it was Slocum Road. Well, I think there was also a concern about the site visibility at Wilbur Avenue and Hathaway Road. When you're heading north on Wilbur Avenue and you're going to take a left-hand turn to go west on Hathaway Road, that there's a concern that that's problematic there. I guess it's the line of sight distance there. Is there any analysis that's been done there to maybe improve that concern?
So just to confirm, we had Hathaway and Slocum?
Well, first is Hathaway and Wilbur.
Yeah, which I think we talked about earlier. They're proposing a additional stop bar in addition to the stop sign. That's a condition that's really not going to change.
Well, that's not going to improve. I don't think that's going to improve the concern that that particular resident has.
Yeah, so in terms of operations, how it's going to operate. So they've analyzed that in terms of how many cars are out there today, how many cars are going to be out there in the future. And that presents the level of service, like I said earlier. Level of service is kind of like grade school, A's the best, F's the worst for signalized and unsignalized intersections. So they've analyzed that, and based on that intersection, from what we're seeing in the analysis, we weren't seeing anything beyond a level of service C. Anything that goes into a D, E, and F you're concerned. So for that intersection, I'm not sure what more you can do there. I mean, maybe there's some additional measures that you could implement to address some of the concerns of the residents. Traffic calming, things like that, but, it's something we can definitely, we'll dig further into that too.
Now, what about Slocum Road and Route 6?
I'm sorry, I'm just flipping through my notes here. So this goes into that's a MassDOT roadway. It's controlled by the state. So what they've stated is, that's a high crash location. I believe there's a project, which I believe is the Route 6 Corridor Improvement Project. It's got a MassDOT project number 612524, which means it's in the system. That's, clearly identified that there's concerns there and improvements are going to be made. And the applicant, has included those as part of their analysis.
Now, there was also an improvement that was referred to for the 2027 for Hathaway Road and Route 6. And actually, that improvement was represented to us, was going to transpire in 2025 when another applicant came before us with Mass DOT. Now, whether or not it's in any closer or any better situation than it was when it was represented to us in 2023, that was supposed to happen in 2025. And we know that 2025 has come and gone, but now it's proposed for 2027. I don't even know if that's going to happen in 2027. But the question was, is that in fiscal year 2027 for the state, or is that in calendar year 2027?
According to the information provided by the applicant, it says that the improvements are being funded with the year 2026 TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Program for the Southeastern Mass Metropolitan Planning Organization, with construction expected to commence in the spring of 2027. So that's information that they've investigated, they've provided to us, and that's what we have.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask someone else if they've got any questions. I think this lady had her hand up before.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nancy Almeida, and I'm actually representing my parents, Antonio and Guillermo Almeida, who live at 2 Spring Hill Road. On the corner, it's on the corner of Hathaway Road and Spring Hill. Their house is directly in front of Wilbur Avenue, where that stop sign is. I think everybody knows we all deal with situations and making decisions better when we have all the facts. And a fact that nobody in this room can deny is that we have a current traffic problem as it is, without adding anything else to it. This corridor project that they're saying is going to mitigate the traffic problem that we currently have is just to address the problem that we currently have. It does not include an additional 300 residences. That is, you're adding, it's like you came up with a solution, you're trying to solve the problem, but now you're adding more problems to it. So we don't even know if it's going to correct the problem that exists right now, never mind adding 300 more residences. Another thing that I've been hearing all evening is that every single intersection that has been mentioned is a high crash intersection. More problems as it is. I was the one that mentioned about adding the Rockdale Avenue intersection at the last meeting because it was not on there and I was shocked. You have to pass by that intersection to get down to 140 or even in the opposite direction. My sister lives on Wilbur Avenue. That is a very big problem that the first young lady had mentioned. A major blind spot over there. All of these Band-Aids that they're trying to put on these exits in the traffic is exactly what it is. It's Band-Aids. It's not, you're going to paint a bar. People may pay attention to that, but you still have to stop at the stop sign. You know, and if you're talking about adding lights to mitigate the traffic, that's going to delay the traffic even more. You have to stop at the red light. I'm still in disbelief. I would like to ask the board to either put a hold on this project or a kibosh on it until we deal with what is currently a big problem for us right now. And as our traffic person had mentioned, we have substandard intersections. Why are we even talking about this if we haven't fixed the current problems that we have right now? Who knows if that project gets finished and it didn't correct the problem the way we thought it was going to. And now we have another mess with 300 more residences involved. That's what I would like to say. I just want the board to put a hold on this and say, we need to deal with one problem at a time and not add more problems to it, more traffic. That's all I have to say. This is just ridiculous.
Come on up, sir.
Ron Dulong, 24 Dean Street. So they're talking about 472 parking spots for 300 units. You got your one-bedroom, two-bedroom, three-bedroom studio apartments. So that's 1.5 parking spots per unit. A studio apartment, one car. Maybe a one-bedroom apartment is maybe one or two vehicles. A two-bedroom, two or maybe three. A three-bedroom apartment could be up to 4 or 5 vehicles. 471? That's going to add so much traffic. I live on Dean. I come out of, when everyone gets out of work, to go into the mall, wherever, it takes me 3, 4, 5 minutes just to get out of my street at that point in time. And I've seen the traffic backed up from Route 6 all the way to Slocum Road a number of times. A number of times where you have to wait at that stop sign, you know, so now you have to go some other which way. And then you go out, so I'm going to take a shortcut. I'll go down Slocum. Slocum's backed all the way up past the golf course. So now you got to go down Wilbur and take Route 6. It's amazing. That's right now. Can you imagine adding, 472? That's a low number, which I just explained to you. It's probably more like 500 or 600 vehicles. And plus, where are these people going to park when all the parking spots are taken on Hathaway Road? So how is painting a white line going to do anything? Oh, yeah, that's going to mitigate the problem. Come on. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hi. Heather Pierce, 28 Kennedy Street.
What? I didn't hear the last name.
Pierce, P-I-E-R-C-E.
Thank you.
A couple of the items, that they did mention that the speed going up is, it's 30 miles per hour in New Bedford, and then it increases to 40 just as we're crossing over to the Dartmouth line, which is going down that hill. So people are speeding up as they're heading just to our streets now and then heading into this development. So that's not going to help with the additional cars coming out. On the previous meeting, they did state that the increase in the traffic would be mostly to the left coming out of this development, which is across all of our streets here, heading down, and that would be the greatest impact. Let's see, the Route 6, they're talking about the lights again, just like everybody else has said. We've been waiting for this forever. There's no guarantee it's going to happen. Adding stop signs and lines on to these intersections really doesn't do anything. Nobody's looking at the lines now. Sometimes they're not even looking at the stop signs now. And then you also talked about previously about adding possible bus stop in front of the development, which would then cause backup again, because then the bus would have to stop and block traffic, so nobody's going to go around the bus because it's very narrow in there to begin with. Again, increasing the risk that we can't get out of our streets now. Like Ron said previously, it's 3 to 5 weekends, much longer. I mean, I can't get to I leave really early on a Saturday to go to the grocery store, because if I come out in the afternoon to run my errands, I can't get out of my own street. And I can't have company to come down to my street because they can't get down there either. Let's see. And how can, as they mentioned before, how can we include the stoplights on Route 6 if we definitely, like you said, it was in 2023, 2025, now we're talking 2027. Is it 2028, 2029, is it going forward? But at the same time, in that time frame, since I know money has been allotted, but it still hasn't happened. Same thing with the development that's going to be happening in New Bedford. It hasn't happened yet, but that hasn't been brought into the fold. And then again, as people mentioned, I know it's traffic, but the size of the buildings, aesthetically, maybe if you're driving down Hathaway Road, it's not so bad, but for us neighbors, like my house physically faces the woods where these apartments will be. So instead of seeing woods and the sunset, I'll be seeing huge buildings. Block my view. And that's all I have to say.
Is there anyone else? Come on up. I'll give you a chance.
Daniel Roderick, 17 Eisenhower Street. So both experts have been talking today on how they generated this data, right? These simulations or analysis or calculations, right? But it's all based on traffic counts that they did in November. So if anybody knows the area, right, the golf course is not open in November. There's no recreational really traffic in November. Nobody's running, there's nobody biking in that time. So I just want to ask the board how they feel that a traffic count's done in November is actually accurate or reflective of what the worst case condition is going to be throughout the year.
I don't know if you recall, but our expert had indicated that they wanted them to actually do an on-site review of traffic itself, not just based on data, but based on actual count, a number count of automobiles.
Yeah. So they did count in November. I think the experts say maybe they wanted to look at how that was calibrated or how that was done. I'm not sure, but
We'll get to that.
we'll get to that. So everybody's been talking about the mitigation that they're going to do, right? They're going to apply for grants, right? And we've all said, well, what happens if the grants don't get approved? Is the town going to pay for the mitigation if the state doesn't fund these grants? Is the applicant going to put a bond up to pay for this? I'd push the board to condition any kind of permitting or certificate of occupancy based on these grants being approved or the mitigation actually happening. Additionally, looking at the study, I mentioned this at the last hearing, the project that's planned for New Bedford, that's plan of record right now for the industrial park, that wasn't included, and neither were all the other 40B projects that are going on right down the town. So I think we can't look at this in a vacuum. We have to assume all these other 40Bs are going to go through, and that data needs to be analyzed and added to all these assessments that are being done. And the other thing that was mentioned was the speed, right? So in New Bedford, the speed limit's only 30 miles an hour. Once you get to Dartmouth and you start coming down the hill, it comes to 40 miles an hour. Adding these 300 units, I think that there should be some condition placed on the applicant on getting the speed limit reduced to 30 to be more consistent with the settlement that'll be after all these units are built. And I guess my last question would be, I know at the last meeting, we provided the additional crash records from Dartmouth that we received from the police department. I know the applicant's still waiting to get those. I guess, is the assessment going to be updated with that crash data once they receive it? And will that be peer reviewed as well? That's a question I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I want to address those things, those points, and then we'll address yours.
Yeah, I think I got all,
About 4 of them down.
I got 5.
All right, okay, you got 5. Well, I don't know how important one of them is.
Well,
you know,
okay, yeah.
The future impact or that some future construction of maybe an idea, I don't really think we take that into consideration, but nonetheless,
Okay.
continue.
Yeah, the first issue that was raised had to do with the traffic counts.
Yes.
So the counts were done in November. The information that we reviewed is for counts in November. We haven't received any other information for counts that were done in any other period.
Okay, thank you.
The second, I think, just was the question about who pays if the grants don't go through. I don't know.
Well, I think it was more of a statement about
Right.
conditioning the granting of this on the grants being actually
Correct.
approved.
Right. But like I said earlier, we've asked some additional information if, what their plan is. So we'll get something in writing, how they're going to address that. I think the next question had to do with the other projects and the background projects. The information that we received included all the projects that have been approved. I think was stated at the last hearing. There's a couple other projects, including the golf course, that are not.
Actually, that hasn't been approved yet.
Right.
That project has not been
So,
approved.
correct. So you can't include that as a project because it has not been approved. And the other thing I just want to add to that is, for this project and for other projects, if this, I'm not going to say that if this project gets approved, but it's sort of the next person. So they need to take the information for this project, or if there's a project that's approved, that needs to be kind of looked at as well. But right now, the projects that they've included in their study are projects that have been, presented and approved. And that's really what you do for a traffic study. You can't project the future.
No, I figured that.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if
Yes.
I ask you a question? So this application was filed on January 8th, so the board has 180 days to review. It is July 7th. The 2 other 40Bs are closing this month and the beginning of May, which means they may be approved. We'll see, the board hasn't acted yet. Given that this application hearing doesn't close until July, and those projects are going to be over 400 units, is that information that should be included in the project?
They included them in the.
Are those, once those are, if the board votes to approve those in the next month, 2 new projects with over 400 units?
Yeah,
Is
so I-
that information that, should the reports be updated before the hearing closes?
So I
to
think I got a
include
little off there. So the 2 projects have been included in the study.
that? They have
It's
been?
the golf course
Okay.
project
All
that's
right.
not included. So I just want to clarify that.
So hold on. When you say the 2 projects, which 2 are you?
The other 40B projects that are in the town of Dartmouth?
When you say the golf course, I'm thinking the golf course is the Hawthorne. Is that the one that's been included?
No, he's talking about the New Bedford Whaling
Whaling
City.
Golf Course.
Oh, okay.
That was brought
I'm
up
not even
earlier in the
thinking
hearing.
about that. That's
The other
only,
40B is a
that's sizzle.
golf course, too.
Sorry, yeah. I should have specified the Whaling Golf Course.
so that's what, okay, I was.
That was the one that was, why wasn't that included? So that one is not approved. But the other two have been included in their study.
Even though they've not been
They're not
approved,
approved,
they've already been calculated in to this assessment.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and what was the other one?
Oh, I think there was two other ones. So there
One
was,
of them was about reducing the speed. What is your, not that we're gonna do that, but what is your opinion on heading westerly, heading westerly, southerly on Hawthorne, on Hathaway Road, It's 30 miles an hour when you're in New Bedford, and when you get into Dartmouth, I don't know if it's right at the Dartmouth line, but somewhere in that vicinity, it increases to 40 miles an hour.
correct. So I don't know who the governing board is in town, if it's the select board that controls that sort of thing. But if that was something that was to be pursued, I don't know if you're the governing authority of that, but there is a process that you can go through with the state to request reducing the speed limits. So if that's a concern, we can have the applicant look at that potentially.
The other one had to do with some accident data. You had a question concerning the accident data.
The crash data, right?
Crash data, yes.
So I think that was related to the, it sounds like the resident may have gotten the information already. I know the applicant has stated that they've requested the information, they've paid the fee, and the police department is compiling that. So, Mr. Chair, I mean, if there's a way to share that data to save a step for the applicant, that's up to you. But what we were told is they're waiting for the information and waiting to compile it.
All right,
That's the 5 I had.
thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Mr. Chair. My name's Helena Farias. I live at 8 Eisenhower Street, Dartmouth, Massachusetts. I have a couple questions, and I guess more so concerns than anything. And some of our fellow neighbors have also addressed them themselves, but I just kind of want to reiterate them because I think they're genuinely the most important things to consider in regards to traffic. As my neighbor here to my left had said, when you have apartments that are just a one-room building, right, a one-room apartment, such as the studio apartments or just those one-bedroom apartments, some of those people may have a roommate or it's a couple living in those apartments. And that means there's 2 cars, most likely. You have those other rooms and those other buildings, and they have more and more cars. So you're consistently adding the number. And as he said, it's going to go up more than the allotted amount that they're considering, even with that 1.5% ratio. You're going to have way above that, realistically. And in that consideration is the idea that there's going to be children living in those apartments. And those children need to get to school. They're going to have to get either a bus to go to school, but honestly, more often than not, most of those parents are taking their kids to school. They are getting dropped off by their parents, and they're taking the time out of the day to take another trip every single day, twice a day, to go drop off their child, pick them up, or if they have to go do something in the middle of the day because their child needs to be picked up from school because they're sick, or etc., or brought to an after-school program. There are multiple trips that are going to be additionally added just because of the children that live within those buildings. Another thing I want to consider and add on is with the additional aspect that there was the management program for parking. If there is that parking that is not necessarily being added right from the forefront, right? You're only at that 1.14, I believe it was. If you're not adding that from the beginning and you're using that management program, when is that actually going to take place, right? So when it's decided in a year from now, when all those spots are already taken over and you've overflowed into those neighbors that are nearby, us who are living there, and we can't even easily access our streets because you have cars on both sides, parked on both sides, when is that actually going to take into effect that those lots, those parking spots will actually be added on? And I understand that there wasn't necessarily any consideration for the Saturday for the traffic report. And I understand that they had said that it's not necessarily important, but as a fellow citizen in the town, just trying to drive down on Hathaway Road to get to Route 6, I'm waiting upwards of 10, 15 minutes just to get onto Route 6. Never mind trying to just get off my street. It's kind of a little ridiculous to consider anything about that wasn't a part of the traffic report. Because that's the Saturday and that's the Sundays in the middle of the day, every single weekend. One last thing that I want to add because of the consideration of the lowering of the speed limit, it's not going to fix the problem at hand. If anything, it's going to make more congestion. People are going to drive slower, and the people behind them are going to drive slower and slower and slower. So you're just continuing to add on to the concerns that are already in place. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hold on, I'm going to have him come up.
So I think the first issue had to do with the parking. So parking was definitely something we were concerned with, and that's why we've asked them to take some.
We're going to address that.
Yeah.
We're going to address that. We're actually addressing it on another location. They're going to have to increase that number, the ratio. That's number one. Number two, we would put no parking signs along Hathaway Road and also along Slocum Road, so that these people are really going to consider, twice whether or not they want to move into this location if they don't have parking for their automobiles. And it's going to create, a problem for management. So we're going to ensure that they're not going to be able to do that. We're actually considering doing some of that. At least I know that we're going to be doing it. We discussed it as a condition on Sherbrooke for Old Westport Road. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you want?
I know, I think that was something, like I said, that was an issue that we've raised, and we haven't finalized. We haven't signed off on that yet.
Oh, no, absolutely. We're still in the middle of this.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I think that was it, right? Okay.
Come on up.
I'm going to try to say something that makes sense to everybody.
You can bring it down a little bit for you so that we can pick.
You're suggesting that I'm short?
No, I'm not suggesting. That's a sensitive subject. But you do have to state your name and address again.
Okay. Geraldine Perry Lopes, Eisenhower Street in North Dartmouth. And this question is not quite related to traffic, but it is related to parking. Where I live, the wetlands are right there behind me. I mean, I don't think a house is going to be built in back of me because it goes down 10 feet at the end of my property. But they talk about parking spaces, and then they talk about extra parking spaces. I forget the term he used. But I'm concerned about all that pavement that's going over the property. How is that going to affect the wetlands that we have?
That's for next week. Oh, not next week, but that's for our next meeting. We're going to discuss that. And if there's a little bit of time, I may give the applicant an opportunity to have their civil expert or their civil engineer to come before us and then just give us an overview as to what they've been doing with regard to the civil part of this. We had also asked them to provide us some renditions of what it would look like based on the height of these buildings for abutting property owners. So that's really not the topic for tonight, okay? But we will get to that, and just keep the question in mind, and it's going to be addressed. It will be addressed.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Anything else?
No,
All right,
that's
great.
it.
There's a lady back here that'd like to come on up. Name and address, please.
Paula Farias, 8 Eisenhower Street. My concern is about parking on 8 Eisenhower Street. It's going to be a problem because the chairman says we're going to put do not park on Hathaway Road, right? So where are those people going to park? On Eisenhower Street.
That's an easy fix, too. They're going to pay to put up signs on Eisenhower Street. If that's what you want in front of your house, we can have that arranged.
We just want saving the problem.
All right. You get that, Susan?
Yes, and I think, Mr. Chair, you could also consider, when we can discuss it with, I can talk to DPW director, there may be resident parking only or something like that, so that if they have a guest that they want to allow park in front of their house, they can, right? So there's a balance between no parking and,
Those houses all have driveways.
Yeah.
I went by there. I walked the land a little bit in the back, so I could see the concern, but there's a fix to that.
okay.
I wish all the problems were that easy. All right, is there anyone else? So again, come on up.
It's Tom Abington, 19 Kennedy Street. So I asked the board, when you have a chance, look in the weeds of the traffic analysis. Get way back into like page 80, 100. That's where all the tables are. And that's where you'll see all the loss of service go from like an E to an F for like Route 6 and Slocum, Route 6 and Hathaway. You'll see that change in service levels. The question I have for the traffic engineers, are they assuming that the mitigation, the improvements for Route 6 and Hathaway is already completed when this development is completed?
I believe they are, but I'll let
So,
them speak.
so what happens if the state says, we need the money for the Cape Cod bridges, you're not getting anything, you're not getting the improvement? What happens then? That needs to be done in the study
I understand.
for a Plan B, you know?
Right. Anything else?
I really think we'll talk more about civil
Right.
when we get there.
Fine.
I'll take
All
a
right, so I'm going to have the gentleman come up to address that. And I think the question is, in this analysis that's being presented to us by the applicant, does it already take into consideration the improvement that's expected to occur in 2027?
Yes.
It does. And the concern is, if that does not happen, that we already have a substandard amount of traffic in these particular intersections, and that'll only further contribute to it.
Correct. And then the other question had to do with, how, we did look at the level of service tables very closely. They do have tables, I don't remember which one it was, but, they analyzed the no build, like I said earlier, the no build, the build with the project. They also have some tables that talk about the build with mitigation condition. So it shows the comparison about what will happen before and after that mitigation is implemented.
Okay. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else? Come on up.
Dan Roderick, 17 Eisenhower Street. I just had one other question that I missed earlier was the traffic impact assessment didn't identify the cart crossing for the golf course. So Medford Country Club, there's a cart crossing on Slocum Road, right? People going to travel from the front of the course to the back. I want to know, what's the plan for that? That wasn't assessed, I guess maybe because they did it in November when nobody's playing golf. So is that going to be looked at, or was that looked at?
If you're not sure, that's a fair response. We have the gentleman who can tell us right here.
It wasn't included in the study.
It was not. Okay. So I've got a nod saying it was not included. Thank you.
Yep.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it would be highly relevant that it be included in the
I
study?
was just going to say, as a golfer, and I mean, I can't expect that you're going to see queuing from golf carts crossing the street. But like I said, I don't want to go on the record, but that would be my initial thoughts.
Which would be what?
I don't think you're going to see any queuing on the roadway to let these carts go by. Unless that's a condition that you see out there today, we can have them look at it, but
It is I think we'd all admit, it's a hazardous condition to begin with in its current state now. And when that was developed, there wasn't as much traffic on Slocum Road as there is today. So obviously, the people that set that up never expected that there would be the impact that we're experiencing today.
yeah. So like I said, the analysis, the traffic study did not include this because it was done in November. So we don't have the information to review, and I can't get up here and state my opinion other than, I don't think it's going to be an issue, but if that's something we want the applicant to look at, we can definitely do that.
I'm not going to say yes as of yet. I think as a board, we probably have to consider that.
Okay.
All right. So is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward and come on up?
Hi, Barbara Rutledge on Wilbur Ave. I've lived here over 30 years. They've talked about doing down at the bottom, putting the traffic lights since I moved in. The other
When you
thing-
say at the bottom, you're meaning of Route 6 and Hathaway Road?
Right.
Okay.
The other thing is, all the years I've lived here, I have never gone to the corner of Wilbur Ave and taken a left. I go the other way by Cumberland Farm, which is going to be a problem because you already see people from Hathaway Road cutting down our street and going where I would go, to Cumberland. So now this is even going to be worse. But thank you.
Is there anyone else? All right, so we'll be touching upon this again, but obviously not at the same level that we're doing it today. Let's see, what do we got for time here? Well, we still got another 10 minutes. So unless you want to reserve it till the next date, but if you can make an opening on civil, well, I got my colleague here who wants to say something.
No, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if Mr. Dirk wanted to say something. I mean, we heard,
Oh,
or
was there any?
we heard
Okay.
from the
Actually,
appeal for the.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I apologize for not having considered that.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if the board knows it, but you have this from March 2nd.
Have a what?
This document here.
Oh, yeah, we had it here this morning. We had it this.
Transportation
impact. Oh, that one.
That's from
To the last hearing.
Yes.
And that pretty much addresses almost everything that you talked about this evening, each individual road, improvements, et cetera. So it's there in writing for your convenience.
Well, thank you. I'd like to hear it from him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Jeffrey Dirk with Vanessa and Associates. You know, I think as I had said at the last hearing, I think the combination, we've obviously heard the concerns of the residents. We've tried to address the concerns in terms of expanding our study area and specific focus items that may not have been addressed in the original transportation assessment. We appreciate the peer review. I think it's raised some good issues which we've responded to, and we'll respond to any additional items that came up tonight. What I do want to say is just really a couple of things. This is a professionally prepared transportation impact assessment. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the Commonwealth. I conduct these studies. I've been doing them for over 30 years. I also represent boards such as this board. What I want to assure the board, and your review consultant serves this purpose as well, this study complies with accepted practices. It is 100% appropriate for questions to be raised, and that's what we're here, is to answer those questions. And it's really about making sure it's a valid study that's presented to you. I will tell you it's a valid study. I'm, again, professional engineer, stamped this study. You've had it reviewed by another professional, but we appreciate the questions and comments. The study incorporates all of the background developments that are required. Those 40B projects, for good or bad, I'm the traffic engineer for those projects. They're in here. We've assessed them. We presented those projects to the board. They're in the traffic study. There's nothing that's been done in terms of data collection, analysis techniques, or anything that is not in accordance with accepted practices. And again, that's what your peer reviewer's role is. As you look through their original review and you look through the 26 items that were addressed, you will see none of them, 0 of those comments deal with the technical portions of the traffic study. They all deal with some questions about adding, expanding study area, providing additional crash data. But not one of those comments says that there was one thing done in this transportation analysis that was either non-standard or incorrect. So I think we really need to look at that as well. So the basis is good, but that, again, does not mean that there shouldn't be difficult questions asked and that we should provide those answers, and we will do that. The very last thing I want to say is, again, I apologize for the error in the presentation. I will issue a new slide. It doesn't affect anything that your consultant has looked at, but we will issue that so that you've got a corrected slide for the record, just to eliminate any confusion. So again, I appreciate the comments from the board as well as the audience, and we will continue to work with your consultant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, so There's only 7 minutes left. Are we going to reserve to start with the civil for the next hearing date?
If I can make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
There's a number of slides. You've got a hard copy of it.
Okay, just got to identify yourself
I'm
first.
sorry, Mark Donahue from Fletcher Tilton Counsel for the applicant. There are a number of slides. You have a hard copy of it. And what I think might serve of a benefit is rather than reviewing them in detail, is for Mr. Cordero to just talk at a high level of what they are and so people can understand them. We can then put them into the portal so people can access them before the next meeting, have a chance to digest them. But I'm afraid if they don't have any context, people will take a look at them and not really understand what they're looking at.
Can you do that in 10 minutes, Mr. Cordero? All right, come on up.
That's this package here, right? This is really cool.
I will go very quickly. For the record, Phil Cordero, Allen and Major Associates, Principal Professional Engineer with an office address at 10 Main Street. As Mark pointed out, I'll go through them quickly just to get the board situated, get the public situated, and we could talk about them in greater detail. The elements that I wanted to talk about very specifically were items that the board had requested us to look at and general progress that we've made on the application since we appeared in front of the board in March. On the civil side, we did have your peer review, Merrill Associates, looked at the application. We had provided a response to them. They have now provided a response to us from last Thursday. They have a couple of final comments. We'll seek to address those very quickly. In the meantime, though, we did talk about at our last meeting, we did speak very briefly about the sports court and whether or not the need for the retaining wall that's technically off property would need a variance, which this board could not grant because it was off property. We have identified that the retaining wall, if it's under 6 feet in height, does not need to meet the setback standards, and will ensure that that retaining wall is 6 feet and under. We also made mention, we have continued our coordination with the fire department. It came up several times during tonight's presentation, but the fire department very specifically asked us for 2 bits of material. One, confirm that we're using the right fire truck, which we have done. The swept path analysis that is on record not only now, but in before, was the largest apparatus model that the department uses. We have confirmed that with the fire department. But the second element is they asked us for a point of egress or ingress into the site exclusively for the fire department, so a second access. So that was recommended as part of the traffic study. We have now formally incorporated it into the plans, and it is located here. It'll be gated, locked, only for the fire department. It'll be located here as you look at the screen. Lastly, we talked about parking tonight, 472 parking spaces. We talked about 131 of them being banked parking spaces. At our previous hearing, we had talked about the banked parking spaces along the southerly property line and the westerly property line. We have also indicated graphically that we can incorporate 44 banked parking spaces along the northerly property line. I just want to reference for the board, that's where those spaces are coming from in the aggregate. We can talk about them at the future meeting. And your peer review for the civil side wants to make sure that our systems fully and completely accommodate all of those if they're fully built out, which they do and they will. Advancing forward, we'll talk about this more. We really do want to focus on the development of the cross sections, the site experience that the abutters on Eisenhower Street will have. We're going to talk at great length about the distances that these buildings are set back from the property line, as denoted by the blue line, and we want to do it in context with the distances the existing houses are set back from the opposing side of the property line, which is that green line. This, for general reference, this is the site section we'll talk about. It's how the site steps and how we use the grade. And then this is the cross-sectional view. You saw these, the public, the board saw these slides during our first introduction of the application several months ago. We've repeated them here. We're also going to talk about at great length, again, those distances between the property lines as we walk down the sections from our development through Eisenhower. What the public and the board hasn't seen, and this is what the board requested us to do, is you wanted to see contextual photographs of how this development will look and feel from Eisenhower as the closest residential street. So what follows is a series of photographs. This is a street view photograph that we took on site. It obviously faces the vacant land now where the development will be located. We've built a 3D model. We've superimposed the 3D model relative to all of the site constraints, elevation, wood line, et cetera. We talk about it at the next meeting. And ultimately, what you'll see is this is how the buildings will contextually fit into that future condition of the site. And what we'll also talk about, and this first view says no proposed landscaping, and I just highlight that for the benefit of some future slides, that we then do incorporate, and you can see them here on the front, some trees through here, sort of masked by some of the existing vegetation that we are able to maintain along the shared property line between ourselves and Eisenhower. But we'll also discuss the benefits of an increased landscaping buffer through there and dense screen, as long as proposed privacy fence. So just to jump through the slides, not to bypass any of them quickly, but I want to walk through them so we can say that we've talked about them here, and as Mark pointed out, we will submit them to the portal tomorrow. We then take the next section down Eisenhower here, take the cross-section through here, and then we take those same photographic view looking into the development, what the cleared area would look like relative to those buildings, relative to what that height and massing would look like, and relative to what the effect of a dense vegetative screening can do when accomplished along that shared property line. Moving further down Eisenhower, removal, the effect of the buildings, and then the effect of the screening that we can introduce through there. Another section down Eisenhower and the development. Here's the screening buffer, the removal of the trees in the background, and obviously what those buildings can situate on, and then the effectiveness of the screening along that shared property line. And then lastly, as we move down to the lower sections, the removal of the trees. This one, if I jump back and forth, you can see where the background trees sort of disappear. The building is sort of tucked away in the back through there. And then the last photo view that we have is we're all the way down Eisenhower on the street view. And again, the loss of the trees in the background as I jump back and forth between the slides, with the building certainly situated, I guess, closer to Hathaway from this view corridor. And then similarly, at the very, very last positioning on Eisenhower Street, as we look to the development, before and after, by and large, the same, in that the trees at that back corner are really going to remain in place, and the development is tucked as far away, as far forward as we can put forth. So that very quickly for the board in 7 minutes. Is the information that the board had asked us to prepare, the ongoing progress that we are making with your civil engineering consultant. We can talk about any issues raised here tonight or any questions this board has for our next meeting.
I just want to make sure this will be on the portal, so if anyone wants to view it from home, it'll be on the portal.
I know what you're saying.
These pictures, does that include those 44 parking spaces used up or not?
Okay, well, I guess the situation is, she might be a little bit confused. The parking spaces will be below this area here, so they're really not going to be viewable from this vantage point.
That's correct, and we'll talk about this in much greater detail at the next meeting, but the important context here is how the site steps down and how these buildings are actually lower in grade than Eisenhower. So to the extent that those spaces, the 44 spaces that I referenced, are actually constructed, they will be 10 to 13 feet lower in elevation from the backyards of those homes on Eisenhower. So these renderings, they don't speak towards it, but they also don't intentionally exclude it, because they would not be visible, because it would actually be tucked below the line of visibility from Eisenhower.
I can understand her question. If you just get the aerial view on there and show the location of where those, right there, if you could just show, okay, there we are.
But now you're not going to have space to put those trees and shrubs that you said you would plant.
Okay, you got, if you're gonna do all that, you gotta come up now. You gotta identify yourself. Come on, no, come on up. I want to hear this. Come on.
So my question is just, the parking spaces that you have, it really sounds like these bank spaces are going to have to be included in the project. That should be the original number?
I'm assuming that already.
Okay.
I'm presuming that that's going to happen.
I'm just, as a neighbor, if I lived on this street, do these pictures represent the 44 parking spaces? Because now you're taking away space of planting those trees and shrubs that you were talking about, that you were showing.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're supposed to direct it to me.
I'm so
I can
sorry.
direct it to him. No problem.
Sorry.
Okay, So what we'll talk about in greater detail is, you can see by the shading on here how much of the existing vegetation we do want to keep by not constructing those 44 parking spaces. It has been made clear to us that the board wants to see the accommodations. Whether or not you de facto want us to construct them, we can talk about that. Generally speaking, from the back of those 44 spaces where my cursor is now to the property line, generally is about 61 feet, plus or minus. From the face of the spaces to the property line, it's about 61 feet. If I build those spaces, it's about 43 feet. We believe that we could accommodate the screening that we're talking about in that same 41 feet. We're going to make it as dense as possible, that should we have to construct those spaces, we want to densify that buffer between the two properties.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. This is really not supposed to be a question and answer session on this. This will be the next time we're here. That's what we got to discuss now. We have to pick another date that we're going to continue this to. So what do we have as a potential date? Michelle? I know we discussed it, I don't remember the date. 21st of May.
21st.
So, someone,
Yeah, I
Mr.
can-
Calhoun, are you going to come up? Oh, you, okay. Are you okay on May 21, Susan? All right. Attorney Faria, May 21st okay with you? Attorney Human?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so, how's May 21st?
If that's the first available, we'll have to make it work.
Because we've got a couple others that we're actually trying to fit in between then. Excuse me, folks. May 21st, all right. So, everyone in the audience, we're letting you know that the next date that we'll be here in this room will be May 21st. Is that a Thursday? It's a Thursday. It'll be a Thursday, May 21st at 6 o'clock PM. At 6 PM. We start at 5, but we do local matters, the typical variance and special permits at 5 o'clock. These we've put on for 6. Obviously, they're much more extensive, much more contentious, and they require a lot more dedication to time. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, sir?
No, I mean, that's, with that gap, we will share the information that was submitted to the portal later this week to your peer review consultants together with process so they can review it. I would hope we'd have vigorous discussion with your traffic consultants, so when we come back on the 21st, we're down to some fairly concrete points.
Can we have a gentleman's understanding that that will be on the portal for these residents by Friday?
Absolutely.
I think Mr. Calhoun wants to add something.
Yeah, it'll be. He's not going to add anything different. It's going to be on by Friday.
No, getting the information up on the portal will probably happen sometime tomorrow. The only thing that we ask, and we made this at the very first hearing, is that the peer review consultants do talk openly and share information in real time.
I don't, in the other two matters we've had, that's not been a problem. I wouldn't expect that to be a problem on this case. But if it is, just address it with Michelle, and we'll do what we need to do.
So, Mr. Chair, just
Sure.
so I can clarify, the peer review consultants have been communicating with the staff, and to the extent that there were questions, follow up on what was discussed on the hearing, what from the hearing needs to be included. Those conversations are happening. After those conversations, just to confirm kind of has everything been covered that was raised at the hearing, et cetera, then the information is being transmitted to the applicant. So just as the applicant likely wouldn't want their consultants shooting stuff off to the board that they haven't discussed with them first, the same thing is happening. The board's consultants are making sure that their letters are covering everything that the board wished to have covered before they go to the applicant. And they're doing that in due course in a reasonable amount of time. And that's what they'll continue to do.
I'm hopeful, I would like to think that these professionals, they can go back and forth.
Couldn't be.
Right? If there's
Nothing to worry about.
Okay.
So bad.
No issues at all.
Thank you. All right. All right, I guess we'll see each other back on May.
We need to make a
Oh, I'm
motion
just
to
letting them
continue.
know,
Okay.
just letting them know, and then, because all of a sudden, when we go off, then they just. So, yeah. So, at this point, what am I gonna need, a motion to adjourn?
Continue.
Oh, continue, that's right.
We're going to continue. I just figured that we thought of it. It's done, no.
So gentlemen, I will entertain a motion to continue this matter. You give me the date.
I make a motion to continue comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-3 to May 21st at 6 o'clock.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, so now I need a motion to adjourn. Unless there's any other business to discuss, Joe. I think we're done. I'll entertain a motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All righty.